Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me again here. This is great to be back. So my name is Christian. I'm working at Bitmovin with codecs, around codecs, codecs integration. So we're focusing. So I'm working on the VOD and transcoding for live and VOD workflows at Bitmovin. And I also did a PhD in video coding, so that is where I come from. So I want to talk about video codecs, the past, the present, and the future a little bit. And let's start off with a short bit of history about video codecs, because actually this field is not that old, and I find it pretty fascinating where we came from. So yeah, starting off in here in '84, that is actually where the first video codec was standardized by the ITU. H120, this was very early stages. I mean, if you remember 1984, computers plus video was not really a thing back then. Like, computers didn't get that far yet. So this was also a low-quality codec. It was more based on a DPCM scheme. Yeah, it didn't really hit off yet. It was improved a lot with the second version, but in that year, also another standard came out from the ITU, the H261. So the first codec in this 26-something series of codecs that you might know. And this one is actually, it's fascinating. This is the origin of the hybrid video coding scheme as we know it today. So this one was the Otto engine moment for video codecs. So this established the video coding loop and like intra-prediction. It had intra-prediction, inter-prediction, transforms, codecs, entropy coding. And this is, if you don't know, this is the this is essentially the basic layout of all modern video codecs, and it was established in '88, right? So this is how all modern video codecs work since then. This is the model that we have been refining for the last almost 40 years, on and on and on, to get better codecs, better codecs, better codecs. But back to the history, so after that, in '93, there was also another, like MPEG also went onto the scene to standardize video codecs and develop them. And after that, the ITU and MPEG, they noticed that they were kind of doing the same thing, so they joined forces to form video codecs. And the first one that came out there is the ITU, MPEG 2, essentially. So this was the first big hit from the joint organization here. And this one was widely adopted in the wild, and it's still used, right? So this was used in broadcasting, on the DVD, physical media. The internet was not that hard on video yet, but also there. Ongoing, so there was another, the ITU and MPEG were actually continuing their individual standardization activities as well. So there were some codecs that were used for like broadcasting. MPEG 4 Part 2, you might remember that as DivX XVIT. That was something that came out of that, like from the hacker scene. Going forward, then the next big hit, H264, AVC, Advanced Video Coding, right? The next big hit from the joint activity that came out. Yeah, we don't have to talk about it. It was adopted everywhere, right? Physical media, broadcast, the internet, and it's still, to this day, the most used video codec out there. Then I want to highlight another development that happened in parallel. So there was this, it was called True Motion, and with the nomenclature you can see where this is going, right? VP 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. This is the origin where VP9, AV1, that sort of codec line came from. Now we have to move the whole timeline a little bit because it's still going. The SMPTE, another standardization organization, also did some standardization on video codecs. VC1, that came from the Windows Media line of codecs, was also a codec used on some Blu-rays and stuff, not that widely available. Some extensions to existing codecs were also released. For example, this one is an extension multi-view video coding for H264 that is for stereoscopic video, right? So this is used on 3D Blu-rays. After that, there was the next big hit, HEVC, right? Again, the joint organizations, ITU and MPEG. Then VP8, VP9, so Google bought this whole thing, and then this is what formed the AOM afterwards. For VP8.9, then HEVC also got a multi-view extension, and finally, AV1 is the one that spawned from that part of the codec space in the more open scheme, right? So Google started it, but now the AOM is actually many companies doing standardization. And lastly, VVC, the latest codec developed by ITU and MPEG together, All right, so that was the that was the history of codecs. I find it fascinating because it's actually not that old and what all happened. All right, why do we even need new video codecs? It is about features, of course, but mostly it is about coding performance, coding efficiency. Right? And I tried to find some studies, and I mean, first of all, if you are trying to have a fair comparison between codecs about the coding performance, then that is a close to impossible task. I mean, people have gone insane about this, I think. I tried to find some studies, the MSU is doing this, and I found some papers that are trying to compare these different codecs from the encoder side. The key point that I want to make here is that roughly, very roughly, right? So don't take the numbers as like precise. Very roughly, if we take AVC as being like 100% bit rate, then with HEVC at the same quality, you can save about 40–50%-ish of bit rate. If you're going to VVC, you can save another 30–40–50-ish% of bit rate. And AV1 is somewhere in between. And for VP9, I was actually not able to find too much data, so I'm not sure what happened with this. I wouldn't put too much emphasis onto this. All right. There are currently ongoing two major ways of how to standardize codecs, right? So there's this FRAND, free, reasonable, and non-discriminatory way of doing codecs. That is what the ITU and MPEG are doing. And on the other side, there's this other thing that's called open source standardization. That's what AOM is doing. I don't like the open source name. It's also, okay, anyway, that's what the name that they gave it. I think we all agree that a lot of work is being put into these codecs. A lot of studies have to be done. A lot of engineering is happening. So the people want to make money of this. Without money, this doesn't work. And I think we all agree on that. That is okay, right? So they want to have money for that. Perfectly fine. They have different approaches on how to make money or how to get money for that research. On the one side, on the front side, it's about selling licenses, right? So you have patented technologies, and then you're selling licenses to that patented technology. Okay. On the other side, on the open source side, the idea is a bit different. You're saying the licensing is free, but you are making money by saving bandwidth or saving compute or bandwidth cost in the end. Like if you go to YouTube and you save them 10% of bandwidth, they save millions of dollars, right? So that is the idea. So if you want to contribute something to these standardization organizations, on the front side, you have to you have to commit to the front idea, but there is no real legal thing that you're signing. That is, I think, one of the issues. So you have to commit to this. But are you really going to offer a free and reasonable license to your patented technologies? Maybe. History showed that many people or many companies do not. On the other side, if you want to contribute something to the AOM, for example, you have to sign a legal agreement that you will give a free license to the patented technologies that you are committing to that standardization organization before you can even commit something. Of course, on both sides, you have to do patent checks on pre-technology, and there's always the threat that somebody jumps out of the bush with a patent and says, hey, I have a patent, and you didn't discover it before. That can always happen on both sides. So what's the current state on the licensing then? Well, for HEVC, we currently have 3 patent pools. 2 have known conditions, 1 has unknown conditions, and we do know that there's a lot of companies that have patented technologies in HEVC, but they are not selling licenses to it. So yeah, on the VVC side, pretty similar. There's 2 pools, but there's also a lot of companies that do not sell licenses to their patented technologies in VVC. On the AV1 side, well, the licensing should be free, but a patent pool has formed where people are claiming they have patents that are relevant to AV1. Are they relevant to AV1 or not? Don't take advice from me. I'm not a patent lawyer, please. There might, of course, be others, as always. So now, my humble opinion is it's a bit frustrating, right? I'm a technical guy. I love the technology behind this. HEVC, VVC, everyone, they are very impressive technically. And why can't this be figured out, right? Why does this greed have to be behind this? My personal opinion. Okay. Anyways, let's go further for adoption of these codecs. Device support. So yeah, about hardware encoding, decoding, most of these codecs are, you can buy chips or they can be decoded and encoded on the GPU, on GPUs and devices. VVC is still upcoming. It's too young. there's definitely developments, but we haven't seen much yet. On browsers, there's a lot of support. The latest news is that Chrome also enabled HEVC support for playback, unfortunately with a but. There is no DRM support yet. So in many situations, when you want to stream something, from the licensing perspective, you need DRM for high-quality content. And HEVC is focused on like 4K high-quality things, and then you can play it back, but without DRM, then in many situations it's kind of worthless. Latest news also, Apple added AV1 support on their platforms, but of course the device penetration in the market is still pretty low. So they enabled it, I think, on the latest iPhone and Mac M1 MacBooks, so there's not a lot of devices out there that support this yet, but it's coming. About device penetration, I also found a little bit of data, but it's hard to get data out of the companies, so they're not publishing much. But for example, HEVC has a very wide adoption range now, right? So if we're looking at like everybody's phone here, I guess like 99% of all phones in this room do support HEVC decoding in hardware on the devices. It has a very high cap. Like for mobile phones, I think it's about in the 90s% of device population out there, so that is very impressive. For AV1, it's much lower, but it also depends on the kind of devices that you're looking at. On TVs, for example, the lifespan is usually much longer, so it takes much longer until all devices support certain codecs. So that also goes into the data that we will see next. So where are these codecs adopted? Broadcasters are typically going for the ITU MPEG codecs, and that's not changing as far as I can see. So yeah, the next generation of broadcast that will happen is probably is also using VVC. There have been some adoptions in some DVB Europe and Brazil and stuff like that. For physical media, does anybody know if there's going to be another set of physical media? I'm not sure. I didn't see anything yet. Maybe Blu-ray is going to be the last physical media that we're seeing. Let's see. And on the streaming side, of course, there's a lot of usage. I also saw some examples of first usages of VVC, but not that much yet. And on device like adoption data, I also looked at some studies that were done. So first of all, there's the streaming services. This is from FutureSource. I think they just went on all of these platforms, played some video, and got data of like which codec did they get. And a lot of videos that they got were still AVC, some HEVC, and then less of VP9 and AV1. And you can see that the only companies that are really doing VP9 and AV1 are Netflix and YouTube. Telestream also some study of, I think, their customer base, also a lot of HEVC, AVC. And from the Bitmovin side, this is from our developer report. This is just a questionnaire about customers, on customers. And lots of people, AVC, HEVC are the dominant codecs that are currently being deployed. Now let's go a little bit into the future, like what is going to happen. I mean, that's always a good question, what is really going to happen. This is also from the Bitmovin developer report, also just a questionnaire, essentially. And so people are asked, what are you planning to adopt? And it looks like a lot of people are planning to adopt HEVC, but also AV1. And there's also some interest in VVC, VP9 also a bit. But yeah, as I said, this is just, we're asking people what they will do. Will they really do it? Let's see. Then some future developments, or current developments / future developments, what are happening in these standardization activities. MPEG is doing a lot of stuff. They have a lot of activities on their roadmap. Some are already finished and they're going on. Of course, they are looking at video compression beyond VVC. They didn't start an activity yet. Usually it's like companies have to propose that there is room for a new development and that it would be much better than the current one. And when the evidence is strong enough, then MPEG will start another development or another activity on this. Didn't happen yet, but that could happen. They also have a lot of other stuff on the roadmap. So they're also working on 6 degrees of freedom video, like immersive video, immersive audio, immersive video, mesh compression, AI compression. video compression for machines, where you don't present the videos to humans, but to machines. Genome compression is something that they recently finished. Not 100% sure how that applies to the motion picture expert group. Maybe they need a rebranding, like the We Compress Everything group. On the other hand, the AOM doesn't have that many activities. The latest thing that happened was the film grain synthesis part from AV1 was standardized as a separate standard that you can now also integrate into anything else. And of course, they are also looking into video compression beyond AV1. So there will be another standard. I think they didn't publish yet publicly what the timeline is. But that is going on, and there will be another standard, probably going to be called AV2, but nothing sure yet when. Lastly, let's ask the crystal ball. There's always these questions coming up, like these hypotheticals. So, oh, crystal ball, will everybody be using HEVC as the one main codec? Maybe. I mean, technically, definitely possible, right? And also, we're seeing a lot of market penetration of the HEVC codec. There's a lot of decoder support out there for HEVC, but as I lined out for some, in my opinion, stupid reasons, there's some hindrance for that. Will everybody be using AV1 as the dominant codec? Could also be, right? AV1 is also an excellent codec, but yeah, similar reasons. There's like a, yeah, we don't see that as being the one key codec. Will people jump over HEVC and go straight for VVC? There's always these discussions, right? What will happen? That's very hard to say. VVC definitely has the potential. It's super efficient. It's technically very impressive. But will it be the one dominant codec out there? So far, it doesn't have too much penetration in the market, right? There's not really a lot of devices supporting it, and it will take time, and we will see what will happen in the future. And then lastly, I want to put a bit of a controversial thing out there, which is, do we even need another video codec now? Aren't the ones that we have already, right? So the cost of streaming is going just one way. Whoop, it's going down. And even with my phone in my pocket, I can go into the subway in Berlin and I have like 50 megabits or something available, right? Do I even need another video codec to bring them? Yeah, but that is a cost thing, evaluation. Let's see. But let's shake the crystal ball, and it will say, in my opinion, multi-codec. That is what is the current situation, right? So we have, if you want to stream video to all devices, it is going to be in multiple codecs, and we don't see that changing in the near future. So probably you will have to stream using multiple different codecs to reach a maximum audience out there. Does that have to be a bad thing? I think we are smart people. I think we can figure this out. We can do this, I think. Yeah, with that, I actually thought there was time for questions, but there isn't. But please, like in the break, we can have a chat. I'm willing to, yeah, I'm happy to talk to anybody about codecs and everything connected to it. So thanks.